Thank you very much.
Yes. Now I would request. Just one second. Now I would request Mr. Sumit Mondal, who's from Central University of Gujarat, to present his paper. Yes,
Yeah, am I
perfectly.
audible? Okay. First of all, I'd like to great good evening to everyone who are present here, and I'd like to thank this team to give us an opportunity to talk about the present scenario, specifically the new scenario and the dilemma of this. So, my topic is an introspective criticism of the present social dilemma of students in the space of online classroom and the possible way for salvation the cyber-internment. So, I would like to give a brief introduction
Mr.
regarding
Sumit
this
Mondal,
topic and
I think you have a network issue. So will you please turn off your video so that we can hear clear your voice? Okay,
so
thank you.
is okay right now?
Yes,
Is
please
it
carry on.
fine?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you. So, the social anxiety among students during COVID-19 pandemic situation is common. So we all are quite familiar with this particular dilemma, and there are many perspective reasons and grounds to be discussed. This paper particularly focuses on the corpus of online classes, premise of still uncapped, a term used extensively in provinces. So among the spaces and student reviews today here is a term that is not to be found in any authenticated dictionaries referring to a space of student, but still is used to
Mr. Sumit Mondal,
yeah.
I think your voice is not clear at all. You can't. Uh, I think you can presence after sometimes later, so that uh, you can check after sometime later. So you
So,
should move.
Hashan, I think he can just disconnect and reconnect. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
If
certain.
if Sumit can disconnect and reconnect, I think let's try, and then if that doesn't happen, then move on to the next speaker.
I'm doing it. Yeah.
Mr. Sumit Mondal, please unmute yourself.
Uh, am I audible properly? Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I think I should start again. And I was talking about a brief introduction about my paper. So what I was talking about the social anxiety during this COVID-19 situation, this student dilemma of student life. So there are many positive reasons and grounds to be discussed. And this paper focuses on the corpus of online classes, the premise of social and the space of studenthood. So I have already mentioned about that one is of studenthood. So that hasn't been extensively found, or that hasn't been in any dictionaries, but it has been referred to the particular space of student life. And the concept of space can abide by any certain discourses or modalities. Instead, it is a psychospace, to be precise, that can be manifested through the journey of an individual student in the spaces of classroom and out of the classroom, where the sharing of common experiences can be spoken. In 2020, due to COVID-19 situation, the classroom has been compelled to shift to the cyberspace. Organic space sharing has been suppressed due to the compartmentalization through the division of classroom. Or it can be said that the cohabitation through common experiences and sharing been done away with the shift of physical space of classroom to the virtual space. How the shift from physical reality to the virtual reality creates the anxiety of being alone, the habituation of being insociated to the cyberspace excludes the reality of sharing is discussed here, and with reference to Tagore's drama Achalayatan, where the monotone classroom space in the early 20th century has been criticized by Tagore. So after the cyberspace is born, the shift from an organic reality to the virtual reality has been adapted by the students more than the people of other age groups in India. It is to be meticulously mentioned here that the nuances of students' life is reformed and the notion of demarcation on the space of learning in the physical classroom and online classroom can be traced. All the same, the concept of online classroom is not much new to the peoples of India. But before the pandemic situation, it has never been required to be looked as mandates. There lies the shift in socio-psychic space of students. Another dilemma in the social studies of the present scenario is the notion of exclusivity in politics. So digital India might now ensure the access of the internet facility to most of the students in the country, but economic conditions are a reason, or a bar even, behind the deprivations of many students in accessing the internet facility. Even if many students are assisted also with the internet connection from the school, college, and university authority, the hesitation and the meticulousness regarding the utilization may cause a dilemma in the lives of those who come from a marginal section of the society. The insecurities for having a dearth in access to the internet, along with the perturbation of like situation, uh, kind of where the self cannot be posited properly and located properly. So the space of a certain wave of purpose from other can be a sort of denigration or hassle for many. And obviously, I'm talking about those people who belong to the lower section of the society. The politics of inclusions or campaign of social or psychological awareness regarding the space of the internet as a modern tool of learning or an alternative space of sharing cannot be witnessed with any poignant vigor. I mean, by the government. The overall growth reported in education system of India is a manifestation of exclusive politics that exempts the psychological or social problems of the underprivileged folks. Indeed, peoples who have already been adopted or habituated in the space of online classroom, to be precise, the purpose of the privileged section, still pop out as a broken and anxious fellows or folks due to several socio-psychological troubles that are discussed here. Criticism on the new space of learning. So it is clearly witnessed that there is a shift of space of learning with time, particularly with the journey of a change through rapid globalization. And the globalization assisted by the boom of cyberspace unfurls the window of knowledge, data, and discussion for the students. The local turns into the global. In the global paradigm, the space has become more vast, and there is a common tendency started to be seen among the students that a virtual image needs to be created by them along with suitable information in various forms, the way their identities can be situated among many. But in the changing time of the global pandemic, the uncharted and unnoticed anxiety is quite common among students while attending online classrooms as a physical space of learning. And that seems to exempt the real experience or the experience of sharing and experience of organic learning, I would say. And the online zone cannot turn out to be as important as the physical space of learning in terms of communication. And classroom language carries a different area of consciousness while being compared to other spaces. Through evolution, classroom learning in India has been changed a lot. Multiple activities, debates, presentations, and learning activities have been modified, but but some common features in terms of friendship, sharing experiences, seem to be on the verge of an impending doom of this calamitous negligence. Indeed, the idea of Tagore's education that awakes universal learning and certain values to value education, the idea of sharing a system without complications, or I would say a simple system of education or communication and cutting of narrow rat race can be tangentially enumerated here. Indeed, the startups of online educations are bombarded with a random boom, and the education has become a profitable medium of business. Needless to say, the capitalist boom in the present scenario is accompanying the idea of online education. And the perfect excuse can be seen from the in the global pandemonium situation that is being inserted by any government or any state bodies. Thus, the space of mediation through organic interaction, sharing values, will certainly be curtailed even in the post-pandemic due to the process of marginalization of organic education system. The school education will certainly be treated as formalities, and the fanes will continue to proceed to create different visceral anxieties and various social problems through the cyber mechanism of compartmentalization. The need for online teaching in this situation can never be denied, particularly in a country like India, where the opening of schools, colleges, and universities can hardly be possible, underestimating the fear of danger. But the invincible and unfathomable problems in the students should be noticed. The alternative method of sharing and exchange of academic ideas and interactiveness in terms of student life with the growing possibilities of vaccination can be devised and can be exercised. Indeed, students should be encouraged to use both the online and offline platforms to voice their journeys. And that is quite important to express their thought, their sort of like lived experience even in this pandemic scenario. The government can be more conscious about the mental health of the students so that they can come up with various policies along with several experts, like verified by several experts that can also connect as well as identify the problems like loneliness, repressions, unintelligibility, and its fear, and the visceral depression being incarcerated in their homes or the compartmentalized virtual world of cyberspace. That is quite often to be seen. Modern anti-journey of the Tower of Babel and aphasia in the arena of the non-existing organic classroom. So it's a reference, obviously, from the very cited translation studies, and obviously an interesting myth. So the reference of the myth of the Tower of Babel seems to be relevant here, as the idea of language is a very key role in this particular aspect. According to the myth, there was only one common language in the world of antiquity. For this same, people could not reach out to the ultimatum. Since then, the beginning of vernacular languages could be witnessed to begin. The anti-journey of the Tower of Babel ought to be exactly the opposite. There are two tendencies to be found in the entire shift from the offline to online. First of all, the idea of single discourse or decorum as a technical language of teaching instructions can be traced. The teachers are compelled to follow the technical modalities, and thus they are to rely more on technical ways of demonstration. All the students may not be learning equally through this mediation. Many pupils are being sidelined due to having sheer issues regarding this technical and instructional unintelligibility, and their problems cannot be attended properly as there lies always a gap between a teacher and a student, and that is the communication gap I'm talking about. The problem can only be resolved with an introduction to the alternative dimension of using organic language. How the implementation can also be included in the space of online teaching should be devised. The next issue is related to translatability. So Eugene Nida, who talks about equivalence, so we are quite familiar about this translation theorist. So in this, it talks about the mechanism of translation and how it is relevant. I'm trying to talk. The equivalence proposed by Nida can be of many types, like be it semiotic, cultural, or literal. In the case of online classroom, a continuous translation from organic classroom language to the technical language of teaching can be seen. Why? Yeah, it is to be explained here as a system of technical teaching that has just turned out, or that has come out from the organic way of classroom in Indian education system, and that has come out with different technical modalities and various procedures, systematic procedures for teaching in this pandemic situations. That has turned out to be the mandates. And the teachers who have earlier relied upon both the instinctive and intellectual consciousness of teaching and elaborating their knowledge, they are to turn into the scope of fixed modalities of teaching as the medium is virtual. So it can be said the precariousness of shifting towards strict discipline of teaching, or a shift from real space of liberties to the virtual ground of constriction, causes an uneasy translation from the real world language of teaching to the virtual world language of teaching. That is extremely problematic for both the teachers and the students in India. An Indian way of teaching has always been crafted in several fixed ways of classroom teaching that needed to be updated. But this sudden shift, I would say, turns out to be a calamitous situation for the Indian students and teachers, as they requires time for the process of adaptations of technical know-how. And the equivalence between the source language, the organic language of classroom teaching, and the target language, the technical language of online teaching in this complete metaphor needs to be delimited, prominent, and familiar. Otherwise, the anxiety of untranslatability can be found in terms of social uncanny and sort of like perturbation among students and teachers both. The four-walled boundary of every student in the in this COVID-19 pandemic, and Tagore's concept of breaking the wall. So this is a criticism of the confinement of space and cutting of imagination. Tagore always wanted to break the walls that encircle the free space of learning for a student. Tagore's criticism of hegemonic and confined space of education that always carries legacy of colonial education. Tagore's purview always endeavors to resurface the model of previous education system. The new window of imagination in tandem with the free spirit to look beyond certain pre-existing modalities, norms, and utilitarianism advocated by Tagore opens up a deep sense of universalism, fraternity, and an autonomous notion of social cohabitation instead of trivial hegemony of unilinear system and hierarchical discourses in education system. The idea of multiplicity in terms of social inclusion has always been forwarded and voiced by Tagore for a better world. Nowadays, the idea of career-driven education, along with the drive of compartmentalized and competitive flow of teaching system, is encast by the startups that put online teachings on demand for the parents. The present mandates in online teachings for online teachings due to this pandemic situation encourages the world of confinements for Indian students, and eventually the space of imagination is curtailed much. In the drama Acholayatan penned by Tagore, we find how all the students are insociated with the fear of wrongdoings by breaking any rules. The rules are not explained with logics or reasons. Rather, they exist because they are imposed by certain extent of hierarchical forces. The deliberate mocking and breaking the rules by Panchak drove the hierarchical system crazy. The hegemony of an egoistic mentality of the educators that only proliferates the chain of hierarchy and bolsters the free spirits of students' imagination can also be equated in the context of this present scenario. Due to the confined space of cyber education and certain newly imposed technical modalities and compartmentalization, the notion of imagination through organic interactiveness is curtailed somehow. There is no window to be unraveled for welcoming the southern breeze of freedom and imagination to make the world creative. There is no provision of having any Shubhadra who might make a mistake by opening the window. And there is no chance of having a Pancho who can crack a joke upon the hierarchical follies of this education system. The technical modalities of online education system won't allow the free spirit of any courageous and creative people to enter into the space of learning. Tagore in this drama showcases how the idea of Eurocentric or Sanskrit system of education can be challenged by the activities of Panchak, who could easily cross the barrier of confined space of learning to learn from marginalized section of the people. The children of untouchables could easily share their space of learning, and the self of an entity and their studenthood needed not to be negotiated or manipulated by the other, who is Panchak. The present confinement of learning space by technical dominance doesn't facilitate the formation of identity dynamics of self by others. Every student is suffering from the dilemma of compartmentalization and otherization. So the virtual imagery in the representing self coming up with social intolerance, differences in anxiety in the larger ambit of the real space. Freud talked about uncanny. In a certain civilization, the concept of civilization and its discontent by Freud has showcased a channel that manifested historically. And uncanny is located in the self because of multiple orders of psychosexual discourses in several layers of psychic inculcation. But the time space of a particular scenario and the characteristics of the locus across the globe delineates the nodes of intersection in terms of various kinds of uncanny. For the students who are attending the online classes, it is the uncanny of not placing the self together. Self is mediated virtually, not organically, which turns out to be the facet of all the social problems or issues, as human being is a social animal and who has been preconditioned in a very collective and the social space. And the social space has always been very crucial for the formation of collective ground of exchanges and cohabitation since the earliest time. Instead of the organic space, the social media in the corpus of learning paradigm compels the student viscerally to negotiate with the real space and the mandatory courses of online learning journey, casting off the sense of interactive and deep engagement. Instead of physical presence, participation, and experiences, the virtual methodologies, along with uneasy technical modalities, bring the sense of uncanny among the students. How the present situation of the students during online classes can be altered with the Tagore's concept of imaginative learnings. So Tagore at his time period was quite concerned about the narrow sense of nationalism and how the authoritative power of the state of any nation may empower these with the ideological state apparatus. ISA. So it's a neo-Marxist concept. So that to confirm the uniplanar discourse towards national integrity instead of a borderless notion of value education. The forced imposition of the discourse of oneness may hinder the free flow of tolerance, diversity, and acceptance. The student life and their lived experience is an important juncture to grab the idea of hegemony in terms of career, way of life as a culture. Imagination through multiple aspects and visions of life at the phase of student life opens up the dialogic dimensions of cultural exchanges and rather a creative and broader aspect of looking various nodes of humanity. Yeah, I'm coming back to the question after just I finish that. I have very little things to say. Although in the present pandemic scenario, the course to the imagination is curtailed, ruptured, and chopped by both the situational drawback and the encouragement by the state in using the virtual and compartmentalized medium of learning. Indeed, the learning in the present scenario have been cornered to the space of virtual media, and that can be broadened in terms of and the space of learning even can be broadened in terms of alternative method of discussions, debates, and value education. Both the theoretical and practical aspects of value education and sharing of journey of self through own expression and through the spaces of the marginalized expression in this pandemic time may have been practiced extensively through the spaces of debates. That may enhance the alternative mode to imagine the positive aspects and a sense of pragmatism in life. A careful plan or strategy of education can be developed by the experts, where a student of any kind, class, or pattern can be encouraged to showcase their creative spirit through any particular art form they are comfortable in. A sense of freedom to manifest the deeper sense of imagination through performances and interactiveness may break the constricted modalities and decorum of the new normal classrooms. When we talk about the politics and experience of space, it is to be underlined that the space cannot be theorized or located in a very straitjacketed or linear way. Rather, the dynamics of space in terms of learning is an ever-changing and evolving process. Thus, the drawbacks of online classroom education having been introduced as teaching decorum mandates very poignantly, may be loosened or freed from instructional constriction to resurface the space of exchange of ideas and the free flow of imagination. Tagore, in his drama Achalayatan, in a very integrating and dialogic way, represents the idea of exchange and imagination mainly through the activities and endeavors of the protagonist Panchak, who questions the existing modalities and norms to break this for a broader expositions of the world outside the boundary. So the world outside the boundary can be can be reached breaking the boundaries of this online, I mean, constrictional systematic barriers. Thus, the learning to go beyond the boundary in the new normal space can be manifested with the idea of Tagore's proposed system of education and its implication in a creative, alternative, and resurfaced way. So far, I have discussed how in the present new normal scenario of the COVID-19 pandemic, the area of online classroom brings dilemma and social anxiety for students. All the same, the new normal space is to be exercised by the students as the mediation of learning and interaction. In a broader view, the present scenario has turned out to be crave normalcy in the real world, and the virtual space has become indispensable so that this space cannot be denied. What can be done is the idea to introduce the alternative methodology and a system to reduce the instructional space of complex modalities. Tagore's idea of education in this context of Indian subcontinent can be useful mainly not for designing the alternative system, but to create an ideal opposite to the present tendency of depending upon formal approach to online teaching. Indeed, space can also be broadened and multiple dimensions of learning can be included to impregnate the media of learning with the interesting and substantial scope of creativity and interactiveness, so that an unnoticed problem or untreated problem of any student from any section can come out with his or her expression, voices, and so yeah. I think I'm done with my paper. So
it's over to chair.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Sumit Mondal. Sumit has extensively talked about the online teaching platform and its impact, and in a very interesting way. He has brought in a lot of issues into it. Now, primarily, what I guess he has talked about the divide between the economically marginalized section, students coming from that section, and the students of from the privileged sections of the society, and how it plays out. I mean, how this difference plays out when it comes to the online teaching platform or the cyberspace. He has talked about the ontological crisis of the students in general, but especially, this ontological crisis is more intense when it comes to the students from the marginalized sections of the society. So yeah, thank you, Sumit. Very, very interesting presentation. And let us open it now up for the questions. And then we can move forward to the other presenters. And I'm sorry that I read out altogether different names. I mean, who will be presenting tomorrow. I think today the other presenters are Mirza Umar Mukhtar Shah, Bhumika Sharma, and Noshin Baba Khan. Okay, so please, questions, please, for Sumit Mondal. Okay.
There's a question from Murshid Alam. Murshid Alam, please ask your question.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Actually, I would like to refer the very heritage of us, country that is unity in variety. Okay, na? So there is a problem in case of language. No, that you also already
Yes.
referred. That if you have any research that how can that problem be addressed? Okay. And the other idea, what was really very fantastic, that was the idea of Tagore, the philosophy of Tagore. Actually, is it possible now because of the inclusiveness of society? The very idea has got distracted fully. We totally got the climax of individualism, where no one is interested in others, and we all are busy with doing our works. Okay,
Yeah.
and the very thing is that now the only thing that legalize because of the revenue collection, that everyone is free to advertise themselves, whether that is true or false, that doesn't matter. And the most of the people influenced by the advertisement, they are just floating in a falsehood. Okay, they are just being influenced by the false propaganda. How can this be addressed?
Okay. Yeah. Am I audible, Murshid Alam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll be coming to, coming to your questions one by one, although they're interconnected. So I'm coming to the first question, as you're talking about language and that as a barrier in this online mode of classroom or even in this online teaching. Yeah. So I was talking about sense of translatability, because we all are habituated in a particular platform, that is organic classroom, and we are to shift to a different mode of teaching or mode of learning. So there lies a strange possibility of translation that we cannot deny. But as any translation or any process of translation can be exercised properly, not only like equipped with theories or even some other technicalities, but organically, interactively, and discursively. So that window can be opened through debates, and obviously experts' views should be there to I would say to um, make an important and alternative choice of this translation, because we are somehow bound to it. We can't get out of this space right now, and we have to start practicing, like practicing these learning procedures in both these mediums. So the shift in like in next uh, pandemic situation, or even in the future pandemic, or even in this future scenario, that can be easier. I'm coming to the second question. You're talking about Tagore's idea.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Tagore's idea. So is it possible to exercise right now where the individualism is so prominent in the socio political condition? Yes, the politics of exclusivity that I was talking about, that is deepening, and that is somehow proliferating the idea of individualism, undoubtedly. But still, we have an option. I mean, soon we can start coming out, and obviously the situation will be turned to normalcy. There will be a space we can even develop, that will be resurfaced. Obviously, the space will be developed again for the debate and interaction. So then the system, or then then we really need to think more about this educational system and how it can be actually idealized with the, or how it can be resurfaced with the questions, or with the idea of Tagore. And I'll be quickly coming to the third question. So that you are talking about so you are particular about advertisement. So yeah, in the social media, we all are somehow advertising ourselves. Even the students, the present trend can showcase a certain addiction towards advertisement, whether it's an advertisement to the of the self, or advertisement of a particular brand. We are addicted. We are being very addicted to the way it is being advertised. So we cannot deny the concept of advertisement right now, because we are completely, equipped with that idea of advertisement. But somehow we'll have to figure out or identify the true way of teaching, or the true way of learning, or the consciousness can be grown, and that is also a government responsibility to make that awareness. Or the, I would say, the system can be economic system needs to be resurfaced a bit. Otherwise, the liberal economy on permit, it's completely my purview, on permit the government to create an alternative education system that will be exempted little bit from this like hassles of advertisement, or somehow the addiction of advertisement. So that's my point.
That means that the intellectuals are being called. Okay, na, that's the high time. Okay, na, government should
Yes,
be so cautious and tricky so that
yes,
people's right are not carved.
yes.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Although that
Thank-
cannot be expected from this kind of government which is present in the central power. So, but yeah, still it should be a state project to create that awareness, and obviously for students and parents both.
Okay, I think Anayatullah Manglu has raised his hand. Do you have any question?
Yes,
Hello,
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
sir.
Yeah.
Hello. Good evening,
Yes,
sir.
good evening.
This is Anayatullah from Kashmir, though I am right now suffering from this issue. That is why I posed a question pertaining to how you view the reliability of online platform to educate people who are denied 4G. Right now, I'm talking to you on 2G speed, that also in a detritus condition, and how you are looking in this issue that certain people are denied access to this, internet, and few rest are given, opportunity to learn things. Is it a state orchestrated agenda to keep people at bay, or you think any other way around?
Well, yeah, I have got like your point. So, is it orchestrated agenda or not? So, I believe in a particular liberal or neoliberal economic situations driven by a rightist government, it needed not to be orchestrated. Since the very beginning of this government, that has to somehow at some point that like had to start that sort of exclusive politics, or keeping uh, some people, or keeping even I mean, if we just follow the trends, follow the statistics, keeping most of the people out of the bay. So it's not the agenda, I would say. It's not the it didn't need to be strategized, but it's somehow the intent. And the pandemic gave a gift to the government to drive their exclusive politics, to keep the people from underprivileged or marginalized section out of this complete scenario. And for that thing, I would like to mention one single thing, as the previous like uh, uh, I forgot his name, who was asking several questions. So he talked about advertisement. So the advertisement obviously plays an important role to keep or set a trend among those people who are even deprived from that system, but who would like to get that and couldn't be collected in the mode of protest against the present scenario of education system. We have all seen how like many students have been deprived even by different central agencies. There are discrepancies in the like entrance examinations and the procedures of like admissions, and obviously a particular trend of creating a sense of exclusive space for exclusive people. So the race story is uncharted. It cannot be seen in the crowd of this advertisement. That actually is a pseudo reality I'm talking about.
Basically, I am speaking from the ground. I'm speaking from the Kashmir, where I am denied internet access since the abrogation of 370. And students who are studying here in Kashmir, who need to have online access to the education, are not having easily availability. Even I am talking to you people, I am reconnecting it back and back after 5 minutes, 10 minutes. This is basically we are denied certain rights like right to internet. which they think and which they I mean put in public sphere as it is going to enhance terrorism in Kashmir. This is this was the thing I was looking for. Are we denied for the purpose because we are Kashmiris, or we denied this on any other ground? Is there any moral ground to deny us? And have you thought about it? Have you worked about it? What is happening with the people on the ground? Like we are taken as if other category within the Indian nation. I must say it so because within my own homeland, I'm not able to assess internet, which is necessary condition for a researcher in order to move ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. So obviously, I would like to consolidate with your concern, and thanks for having a voices from a particular place where the internet connection is denied, and it's absolutely necessary and obviously needful for the students, even obviously for anyone, like not for the students, researchers, or teachers, for anyone to be connected. But still,
And
that's the follies, that's the failures, and I think particularly it's sorry, it's okay. So yeah, I think it's short of, it's not a strategy even to, it could be a strategy to sideline a particular section, but there are many sections unnoticed. I mean, for example, if we talk about a particular section or particular class, I mean the marginalized class in general, so they are somehow exempted or deprived from the facilities. But in a particular group, there are many like other, I would say, sections in a broader paradigm of social science. For example, if a, a village of village of those people, I mean village of the lead dwellers, they are completely denied to the internet facilities, it will be a problem, or it will be somehow a government, uh, I would say, intent to keep those voices out who could be against, or who could be collective on the road against the government. And in a particular circle, a particular space, not only only Dalit, even you're not Adivashi, even you are talking about your own concern. Obviously, there are like many sections who are denied, and this is a single weapon from this rightist government to literally keep all these voices out of the focus.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's over to chair.
Yeah. Can I ask a question, please, right now?
Okay, Mr. Shahidul Islam. Yeah, very quickly, go for it.
Yeah, just a quick question that the speaker answered the last attendance, and I think he has proposed a alternative education system. So I'd like to ask the speaker how he will comment on the transaction cost of creating alternative education system in this present scenario.
See, the transaction cost you're talking about, the like the measure or the calculation, I might not have any idea regarding that, because it will completely an economical gain. But I believe that even earlier the space was quite open. It was a broader space, not a squeezed, not a narrow one. So that space in terms of like in terms of a particular geopolitical area, in terms of particular learning space, that can be exercised. And we have seen how Shantiniketan has been made, but even in this pandemic situation, we can follow the ideas, even in this online place. So we can further exercise this ideal in this offline place. So that's what I tried to make.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
So,
much.
okay, thank you, Sumit, for your wonderful take on the issue. I just would like to make one point in regard to the question asked by Anayatullah. Anayatullah. Yeah.
Thank you,
Now,
sir.
The point is, you see, there is a difference between the other marginalized sections within the state of India and the Kashmiris. And that point, I think, with the abrogation of Article 370, the marginalization of the Kashmiris becomes legalized. So it is a complete, say, case of political marginality, legalized case of marginality when it comes to the denial of internet and other rights to the Kashmiri people, especially in the aftermath of the abrogation of the Article 370. So it is more structured. In other words, it is more structured compared to see the marginalization of different other groups that we know within the state of India when it comes to not only access to internet but many other issues. So there is, I think, that's the structure, legal sanction, and which is, I think, a major difference in the case of the marginalization of Kashmiri people.
Thank you.
So I don't know how Sumit would respond to it. Yeah.
I would obviously second you, as it's a very political constrictions, sort of a legalized, I would say, vindications, legalized way to somehow keep the Kashmiris separate from the main zone. But the other problems are not that popped out, not that to be seen, but they also exist. But what I would like to say in this particular, point, they can be equated when it comes the problems, even the problems of not being connected, or the problems of not being together in terms of raising the voices, that can be seen in various levels. uh, and in terms of humanity, in terms of a broader view, they can be consolidated in the whole space of pan India, and all those voices can be raised together, because there cannot be the sectionalization, even that they are Dalit or they are Adivashi, they are Kashmir, so they have been denied that way, they have been denied this way. So this is not the way. There is a single weapon, I think, that is used by the government to somehow keep all them out of this zone to protest or to be collected.
So okay, Shumit, I think we have to move on to the next presenters, and unfortunately, I won't be here to chair the rest of the session. I would request Hassan to, you know, bring in the other chair, Murshid Alam, I hope, and start the next.